Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Blooming Daily. My name is Ruth Olujobi, and I am so excited to have you join me again. On today's episode, we have an amazing guest with us, and I'm so excited because this is one of the unconventional topics about health. When we think about health, we don't really think about this thing, but it's really important because in the long run, it affects our health and it affects how we handle our health. So join me in welcoming Juliette May.
Hi everyone, it's nice to be here, and I hope I can impart some good message to you all today.
I'm sure you will. Thank you so much, Juliette, for joining me. This is so exciting for me. How are you doing, Juliette?
I'm doing pretty good. I have my graduation tomorrow.
So class of 2022.
Yeah. So it feels good to have finally finished up a good run of college, and I'm excited to see my family soon and, go on and do whatever is calling me out there.
Yes, that's amazing. Yeah. Congratulations, Juliette, and congratulations to all our class of 2022 graduates. This is really exciting, and we know that it's been so much going on this past couple of years, the pandemic, and you all did a lot. Congratulations, honestly.
Thank you. I mean, it's same for you too, Ruth, and for a lot of the first years out there. You guys had a really rough time in high school, and that's even a more formative period for you guys. So, I mean, we've all gone through it, but it's all ending soon, and that's a really wonderful thing.
Yes, that's so true. And so today we're going to be talking about, how our priorities affect our health. And this is very important because sometimes we say, oh, I'm sick, and oh, I'm having this feeling and all of that. And then we just automatically trace it to oh, biology, oh, what did I eat? Or oh, maybe was I out late and was I cold and is that why I have a flu and things like that. But then sometimes there's some decisions we make or some decisions we don't make that affect our health. And so I was wondering
so this is a very complex question. It's a very simple question, but it's also very complex too. And I think when I think about, how I'm going to shape my priorities, I think first and foremost about necessity.
True.
What do I need to do today? What is actually required of me? And what is my job? So that's the first sort of context that I filter through. And that can normally be, for us in our context, it was I am a student at Bowdoin College.
True. So
I have to do my homework. I have to show up to my classes, and that's got to be a priority. What else is there? Perhaps I really need to do a part-time job or something like that. Or I really need to be looking for an internship. Things like that. If you have something that is a daily, responsibility that, you can't, it's not an optional thing for you, that has to make it onto your priority list, right? But after that, I think everyone has a lot of leeway as to what they will put on that list. Then I would filter next by the idea of want. What do you want to do? What are you passionate about? What are your hobbies? What is something you've always loved to do? And how does that align with, the different things that you could possibly add to your schedule or to your priority list, right? And so then I would filter by want, right? And then finally, I would filter those wants by, can I do it? Can I do it? And I think I say this because there are a lot of people who, they have a list of things to do and the list of priorities they have for themselves, but it almost always tends to get overbooked than underbooked, right? And
very, very true.
And so what you'll find is you'll have all the necessities in there, but overthrown in with them are so many things that they feel like they have to do also because either they love it or because they just feel obligated to do it, which is another thing. that's, we will probably have to talk about too. And everyone, we have to understand, is limited in time, limited in energy, limited in, our different capacities to do the different tasks we want to do. And we can't all do everything. So it's good to say, what do I have to do today? List like 2-3 things you have to do today. Then you add, what else can I do realistically today? And if something can't make the list, it doesn't make the list. And I think that's how you normally make a priority list.
Wow, that is really like succinct. And I wanted to quickly jump off what you said about, something we need to do versus something we want to do, right? How do you really like draw the line between, oh, I really need to do this, or I just want to do this, I don't need to do it? Because sometimes we can have so many things we want to put on our list. Like for me, many times I have my classes, I have homework, I have a job on campus, I have other things off campus, I have extracurricular activities, I have, and then I still have to sleep, which is something we'll still discuss, like, oh, I still have to like prioritize my health. So like, how do I clearly say, this is something I need to do, this is something I just want to do, and this is something that, I can definitely sacrifice and not do, and it to be fine?
Wow, that's a good question. And knowing your context too, Ruth, because you do a lot of things, right? And a lot of them are really necessities, right? You have to do them. And then others, it's like, for you, it's like, it's this weird fine line. I understand what you mean between, oh, but this is an amazing thing that I really want to do, but they also call me to do it. There are leaders here who want me to engage with them, and it almost feels like if I'm not doing it, I'm doing something wrong.
Yes.
There seems to be some obligation or responsibility for me to fulfill, right? And so I think that's a very tricky thing. But for me, I think at the end of the day, I would just say, I guess I would list it as if you don't do it, there will be serious consequences.
Yeah.
And it's a consequence that you cannot bear, or you really would not like to bear. I think that I would consider as like a need.
Oh, yeah.
If that makes sense. I
Yes.
mean, I think that to some basic extent can do it, right? Like, if I don't show up to my classes and don't do my homework, oh boy, like, that's a whole college tuition down the drain. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yes.
I won't be able to get a job. Or perhaps I could, but not the job that I had wanted, with the degree that I had wanted, right? Or I won't get the grades that I wanted, and then if I was, say, like a pre-med student or a pre-law student or a pre-postgrad student, then I would be losing those opportunities, right? And so I would say, if there's something that is calling you right now, you have these responsibilities to do, and if you don't fulfill them, something really, really bad is going to happen to you, then perhaps you should really just go and do it, is what I would say. Because who can say to you, Ruth, you're supposed to be here, but instead you're here. Like, why are you going to school when you should be at somewhere? Or why are you going to this one? Or why are you starting your own business instead of going to college? Like, anyone can tell you differently, right? But I think everyone has to make the choice themselves between what is something that I really care about and I need to do today. Otherwise, I'll suffer the consequences, which I'll suffer some consequences that I really don't want to bear.
Yeah. Wow, that's really true. And I love that you said that, everyone has to make the decision for themselves, because sometimes it's hard for us to say, okay, I'm going to sit down and choose what is important for me. Many times we want people to tell us what's important and what we should do and what we should not do. And I think it's fair, because sometimes we want guidance. We want to make sure that we're listening to what other people are telling us to do. But sometimes we can be hearing so many conflicting ideas that we really have to make the decision ourselves. You
have to take agency and you have to do it yourself.
Yes.
However, I mean, you take that agency after having still listened to what other people have to say, because when you have good friends who can say something about your schedule or say something about, I don't think you're prioritizing the right thing right now. Often if it's a very good friend who, truly is wise and knows a couple things, then you should listen, right? Because sometimes it can also be that other people can see how tired you are before you do. Or they can see things in a way you can't, because you are yourself, right? And you just, there might be some things that someone's like, you look really tired today. Have you been sleeping? Or you feel really rushed right now. So what is going on? And other people can sometimes be faster at picking up those things, especially as they're very, very close to you. So it's good to listen to what other people have to say too.
Yes, it really is. And that's why balance is important. Like, you're picking what they're saying, but you're also making sure that you have like agency, just like you said.
You are, at the end of the day, you are held accountable.
Yes.
You have to make the change to your schedule, and it's going to be your responsibility at the end of the day.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now I'm wondering, why do you think people struggle with their priorities so much? Like, why do you think that we don't just get it well? Why do you think that people are like, every time people are like looking for ways to like get their priorities to be better and to get more in tune with what's more important to them, and to like sift out like things that are just wants and not needs? Why do you think people struggle with that?
That's such a good question. I mean, it's so multi-layered, I think, this one. I would say often there appears to be some sort of disordered desire situation going on, where you feel like you have to overbook yourself, add a lot of things onto your priority list in order to feel some sort of validation or worthiness, or I am better than others, that sort of syndrome, right? And I think that can sometimes be the case. Other times it can be that, I mean, Ruth, you and I are Christian, and I would say something that we talk about a lot at the study center, which is where Ruth and I do Bible study for the listeners here, is that we all understand that God doesn't call us to two places at once.
Yes.
And that in every decision we have, and in any major decisions we have to make, God actually has something to say about it, and there actually is a right choice that He, has called for us to partake in.
Yes.
And sometimes when we are not quite in tune with that, when we're not being prayerful, or we're not examining our hearts, or where we are emotionally, spiritually, physically, mentally, in relation to other people, if we're not attentive, then we'll miss those things, and other things will end up on that priority list, and we'll start making choices that kind of missed out on the big thing that we're supposed to really be doing. So I know that's a little bit vague, but I think sometimes we have to just take a long, quiet, reflective moment to think hard about what is required of me today, truly. What is required of me today? What is really important too? I think at the end of the day, Ruth, you and I are talking about how do we include good prioritization into our daily life.
Yes.
But it also applies, our daily life has to be reflective of the priorities we have in our entire life. When you live out your entire life, what will you have said you really prioritize? Is it going to be money? Or accomplishment and ambition? Or is it going to be being a better person? Is it going to be people pleasing? We have to really take a good, long, hard look at ourselves and see what is the life I really want to live? What is the end of my life? And I think when we answer that question, it becomes a lot easier to also ask, what should I do today?
Oh yes, that's really important. And then you said initially that, knowing what we need to do and what we want to do, right, can be like chosen by saying, okay, what will have the most like daring consequence, and all of that. And it reminds me of like our last episode when we spoke about sleep and how when you don't sleep you can get very tired, and you can feel out of tune with your body, and you can feel so many things, right? That's like a huge consequence, because like some of the long-term effects include like memory, like issues and all of that. But that means sleep is something we need to prioritize, not something we just want to prioritize. But then oftentimes we don't prioritize it, right? And now it's making me wonder, like, how does health fit into your priority list, Juliette? How do you, like, when you're making up your priority list for a day or making up your to-do list, do you consciously say, okay, I will nap from now to now, or I will get my breakfast this time, or I will go to the gym this time, right? Because I know that for me, for example, I just recently started adding things on my to-do list, like breakfast. I literally have like breakfast on my like calendar, and lunch on my calendar, and dinner, right? Because like it's easy for all these things to slip past, and you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't get breakfast, and it's like so time.
Yeah.
Like, so how does your health fall into your priority list?
That's good. Wait, actually, before I answer that question, though, I do want to clarify. I was thinking a little bit about why I didn't really like the answer to my first question, where you asked, I don't remember what the question was, but I said something along the lines of the need, the difference. The question was the difference between need and want,
yes.
Right? And I responded with something like, it's got to be something, the need has to be something where it's a consequence you cannot bear to bear, right?
Yes.
And I actually want to say that almost sounds a little too relative for me. And I do think there is in some way some objective thing that is like a need on our schedule versus a want on our schedule. But I just haven't quite understood how to parcel it out yet into words. So I just wanted to add that, because I do think, like I said earlier, there really is, I believe, in each day, in each month, and in each year in our lives, there is objectively something we need to do. There are some things we need to do, and there are some things we are free to do. So
yes.
That's a thought. Okay. How do I incorporate health into my daily schedule? That's a good one. I do the same thing as you, Ruth. I don't add like time slots for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, although I know people who do. And they also are people who have a lot of things on their schedule, and they need to put those time blocks in so they know, oh, this is my free time. And I think for some people who really struggle with a very, very packed schedule, can really benefit from having, if you are also, kind of like a calendar person, like a Google Calendar or Apple Calendar person, put in, time blocks in your schedule where you can just rest and have breakfast, rest and have lunch or dinner or a snack time. Some people also really enjoy planting just random 15-minute time blocks into their schedule to do absolutely nothing. And they say that really works well for them. And you can do just whatever makes you feel more restful and peaceful. And often just having those small moments of breathing space can really give you clarity of mind and peace in your heart. And for me, I now like suffer from lack of exercise. So I kind of tend to be on the other side now, where I don't think I really overbook my schedule, but I underbook these days. And so for me, I'm consciously trying to book a time at the gym with friends, or book time in the morning to wake up and be reflective and to start some journaling. And I think those things can help too. So for some people, you can add time blocks of rest. Some other people can add time blocks of productivity.
Yes.
Because, it goes both ways. And for some people, if you're like an excessive planner too, perhaps you can try weaning off the schedule too. I wonder if there's something there to that too. Like relying excessively on the Google Calendar. Mm-hmm. That might be something, but there's always a delicate fine line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And when you talk about like booking a time to go to the gym, I also thought of how I like book time slots to go to the pool. Like on my calendar, there's like this time to this time on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Like I go to the pool on Tuesdays and Thursdays in the mornings, and I've been going like that consistently for weeks. And the thing about making this like on your calendar and making this consistent is that before it becomes an habit, and you just know that you're meant to be doing this thing, right? Mm-hmm. Tuesday mornings, I just know I have to be at the pool, like in the morning, right? And then Thursday mornings, it's just something I feel that I should do, right? Because I've done it over time. And so, yes, it's very important. And I was wondering that, we've spoken about, our priorities, what we want to do versus, what we need to do. And I was wondering, what kind of like societal priorities do you think we have, right? What are the kind of priorities that you think society like gives us, right? Or makes us want to see that might like sideline our health, right? Maybe society prioritizes, making money. And so you're trying to make money at all costs, even if you're not sleeping well. Or society prioritizes like doing this, and that's at the detriment of your health. What kind of examples do you think there are?
Yeah, no, Ruth, that's a really good example. Making money, right? And that makes people work excessive hours so that they can just earn a couple more bucks. When, for some people, that's what they really need to do. But for others, like us young ones, who could do okay without such a large salary, it can be a bit distracting towards our pursuit of what we really love to do, or what we really should be doing. I can speak to the Bowdoin context because I am a graduating Bowdoin student. I do think that the money is a big one. Maybe not money, but the idea of success really is a really alluring concept at Bowdoin. And we all try to get good grades, and we all try to get great internships, and we all try to get good jobs. And everyone's desire to want to get ahead and to meet each of these criteria, I think it makes us more anxious people, and it gives us less charity and compassion all around, and it tires us out. And when you're anxious and you're worried, you can't sleep well, and you're also probably spending a lot of time on these things, right? And probably staying up long hours in the library and things like that when you could rest a little. And so I agree that the idea of money, success, prestige, that is a big one that society kind of pulls us towards. Yet I think there needs to be a bit of a reflective moment for us.
Yes.
I know some people also struggle with this feeling that they need to be very productive or seen as very productive too. Seen as someone who does a lot of things. Seen as someone who is in a lot of leadership positions. I think there's always this very strong pull in society to be someone who is lovable, someone who is so attractive, someone who is so accomplished. And it's such a really a tempting idea for a lot of people that, and it kind of speaks to our deepest insecurities and desires, which is why it tends to be so powerful. It has such a powerful hold on people.
Yes.
Right? I come to college and people are saying, oh my goodness, like you want to be so accomplished, like you want to get that award, you know, you want to get a good GPA and you want to study abroad at that great school and you want to get an internship and this and that. And then I think about it and I go, you know what, how great it would be if I went to this school and if I did get this amazing internship and I made this much money, and you know, people thought I was very smart and nice to talk to and things like that. And it just speaks to you and it encourages you to like pursue those ideas, when in reality there's something deeper, like some sort of deeper reflection we need to do about ourselves, about our insecurities. Why do we feel like we need it? You know?
Yeah. No.
And will those things really fulfill us is the next question.
Yeah. Would those things really fulfill us? That's a very, very good question, right? And, you know, coming back to health, it's interesting that I feel like society doesn't really prize things like sleeping well or, you know,
yeah.
It feels like, no, the less you sleep, the more prestigious it is. Like the way we said on the last episode,
yeah.
right?
Some people even brag about it. Like, oh, you think you think you're so sad for yourself. You got 5 hours. I got 4. Like,
oh my gosh, we said this on the last episode.
We don't
said
have
this
to do
exact
that.
thing.
Yeah.
I was saying this to kids too. That like, yeah, some people were like, you know, you got 5. Oh, I got 4.5. Beat that. You know.
I'm like, why do you have to do that? And why is it something we brag about? Why are we bragging about our misery?
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's because just like you said, coming back to your point on like being someone who is like working hard, and like you want to be seen as someone who is like working hard or who is trying to be like successful, right? So even if you're really tired, you know that your body needs rest, but you still want to spend like another 2 hours in the library, even when you know you're tired, even when you know your body wants to rest. And I'm so guilty of this, right? So like, I'm not even saying that, people out there, like I am really guilty of this. Like sometimes I get back from work at midnight and I know I'm exhausted, but I still sit down at my desk to work because I'm telling myself I can do 1 more hour before I go to bed. But like my body is like, Ruth, you just got back from work, you're tired, go to bed. But I'm still trying to do that assignment or still trying to solve that like problem set, even when, because I want to like be like, okay, yes, even after I got back from work, I still did my, schoolwork, right? And so like, it feels like even when people are not watching them, I feel like I'm going towards a prize of like, oh, I still accomplished this work. Even if it was not quality work, I just want to know that I still stayed up working. And I've come to realize that there's like no point. There's really no point depriving yourself of like good sleep and living healthy just because you're trying to be seen as someone who is like working really hard, or like, no, there really is no point.
Yeah. Just to be seen as somebody who works hard? No, definitely not. However, I don't think that staying up late in the library itself should be an absolute like rule. Don't do it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I mean, I do think there's a lot of merit to being someone who works hard, and there's a test coming up. You want to do well. Okay, if you need to. It's okay to spend a couple extra hours in the library for that moment, right? And I think, as long as you know the impact it will have on your body, as long as you know what you are doing and you're very conscious about it, this is but this, you understand what's going to happen, but you know this is something that really matters a lot to you and you're willing to sacrifice it, then I think that's great. But if you're doing it with a different motive, of course, I think we have to really examine the heart there. And I wanted to say something else. Oh, yes. And also, I mean, something we also need to think about is, why did our homework assignments get pushed until like 12 a.m., right? That's another thing we have to think about. Are we putting other things in our schedule first that will put homework assignments or like more important things kind of at risk? We need to make sure that we're taking care of the basics first, and then doing the extra things if we want to later at night. I think that's a really good way to approach it. That way you're not someone who's like, oh shoot, I have to do this. Like, oh shoot, I'm late. Like, oh shoot, I have to, or else, you know.
Yes.
So that's another way you could prioritize, going back to that other question, how you can incorporate your health and good prioritization into your schedule is put the most important ones first during the hours that you feel most productive and early enough so that you don't stress about it and put stress on other people too about it. Yeah. So.
Yeah, no, that's very important. Like, putting the most important things first so that you're not you're not struggling at the end of the day, because you still need to do them, right? Because you've put the things you want to do first, and now the things you need to do are still there, and you need to do them. They're non-negotiable. So like,
so now you have to stay up, right? And you're just like, oh my goodness, why did I do that? I struggle with this too. I do the things I want to do first, and then I'm like, oh shoot, it's like 11 p.m. and I haven't done my readings yet. You know, so I'm like, oh shoot, I have to read super fast.
No, that's so true. And so I wanted to quickly wrap up by like saying, okay, so now we're saying, yes, prioritizing our health is like really important, because, you know, I was thinking of this, that if you don't prioritize your health, and if you like don't prioritize your sleep, then you won't get enough sleep. If you don't prioritize your health, then you won't like be conscious about like being healthy. And it's, you know, it's something that we can miss because it's so subtle, like, oh yeah, I don't have to like prioritize like sleep. I know I have to sleep, my body needs sleep, but we'll be surprised how much we actually need to do, how conscious we actually need to be, so that we are actually like living our best lives. And so I was wondering, like, what are some of your key takeaways in building a great like priority list, and in making sure that list is in our best interest, that it's serving us as it should?
Yeah, like I said before, I would say filter it through that list. You know, what do you need to do? And then once you have all of your needs written into your priority list, preferably earlier on in the day than later on in the day where you're going to be stressed out, you add those things, and then you can start thinking about, okay, so these are the things I love to do. I love to do choir, and at the same time I have 2 clubs that are asking me to be on their e-board, and at the same time I love to volunteer, and then at the same time I would love to run a podcast. You know, if you had these wants that you wanted to do, think through it. You know, what is really most important to me? What would I be okay with not doing? And what would I really love to do? What would I regret not doing? And then I would say, filter it with a friend. Friends. Ask them what they think of your schedule. I actually think that's a really good idea. Sometimes your friends can tell you best, well, Ruth, I think this one is, you don't really need this one. You know, your schedule, it really looks a bit packed to me. Can you really handle it? You know? Or someone can look at your schedule and be like, maybe, like, you need to go to the gym more. Yeah. Like, are you sure you're only going to study this much? Like, you have some big exams coming up this year. You know, sometimes actually asking a friend or even a mentor, what do you think of this schedule? Do you think it makes sense? And in terms of basic human biological functionings, people all have the eyes for it, can tell you, you're not sleeping enough, or you're getting too much sleep, bro. Like, what is going on? Anybody can know, because it's a basic human idea that we are people who are built to be productive, but also to rest. So ask people. The second thing I would say is be in tune with yourself. Listen to yourself.
Yes, that's
ask
a good
yourself,
one.
what is my really missing, and what am I trying to fill that missing void with? You know, am I trying to use my work to distract myself from something? Right?
Yes.
And I think being healthy, it really means health is not just physical. It's very holistic, the term. Or I believe it can be used holistically. And it can apply to your physical, right? Getting enough sleep, eating well, and exercising. Even getting enough sunlight, talking to friends, things like that. But it can also include the mental and the emotional and the spiritual too. So, examine those different areas of yourselves and see, what am I missing? And if I'm missing something, what will I fill it with, or how will I address it? And how does that get reflected in my schedule? So I think that's something I would say, and then talk about it with a friend. Why not?
No, that's really good. And I really wanted to wrap up by saying that, at different stages of our lives, we have different priorities, and it's important for us to reevaluate our priorities from time to time, to say, okay, first semester, these were my priorities. Now, this other semester, these are my priorities. Now I'm done with college, these are my priorities, right? Understanding that our priorities don't stay the same, all the time. These 5 things don't stay your priority, maybe for 5 years. No, they change, and that's fine.
Probably changes maybe 5 times a year. Come on, right? Especially when some big seasons come up,
yes.
Right? Finals period,
yes.
Or winter break, or spring break, summer internships. You want to still be your schedule is still going to change, right? So you want to still be adjusting it and filtering through, what is important to me, and what do I need to do versus what I should be doing versus what I just want to do, and things I should not be doing.
Yeah, no, that's really important. And I just wanted to quickly say that, our health is very important, right? And if you're not in good health, you can't do all the big things that you want to do. You want to get good grades, and you want to make a lot of money, and you want to do this. If you're not in good health, all those things won't even matter at all.
It really won't matter at the end of the day. I mean, really, you work really hard, and maybe 70 hours a week, and you don't get sleep, but you're making a lot of money. But over time, your health will really deteriorate, and when you're 40, you'll have money in your account, but you'll have no life to live.
True.
And you'll have no family to live with either. You have no one to share it with because you're so busy focused on your money, the accumulation of it, things like that. I think we need to be more mindful of the other areas of our lives that, are less alluring. Money is so easy to see, prestige, so easy to see, right? But the other things, your emotional health, your relationship with your family and friends, your inner peace versus inner anxiety, things like that are they're a bit harder to see. But over time, you will see the lasting impact of not having put enough effort or attention into the things you should have been prioritizing long ago.
No, that's really important. Thank you so much, Juliette, for that. That was amazing. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I am so glad that we got to speak about this topic, because I think it's really important, and I think it's one of the major role players in our health. And don't worry, we're going to talk about other similar things that are more subtle like this, right? Like, for example, when you think of your health, you automatically don't think of your priority list and like what you're doing wrong or what you're not doing well that can be affecting your health, right? So thank you so much, Juliette, for joining us today.
Of course. I mean, my very half-baked thoughts. I hope it is some comfort and encouragement to each of the listeners here today. And though I am not a health expert, I hope that my words at least have imparted some good things to think about for people. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, everyone. Don't forget to send us your comments about what you think and the issues you are probably having with your priority list, and any questions you have. Honestly, don't forget to also share to those you think would love this, and we will see you again in our next episode. Bye.